It often begins the same way. You open your eyes, stretch your legs, and before your feet even touch the floor, there's that dull, stiff ache deep inside your knees or your fingers. For a few seconds, you tell yourself it's nothing. Just another morning, just another sign of age. But what if that stiffness, that subtle pain that greets you every dawn, isn't just getting older? What if it's being silently fueled by the very things you do within the first hour after waking up? Most people over 50 don't realize that the morning, those quiet minutes when the body transitions from rest to movement, is one of the most critical times for joint health. In fact, what you do in that short window can either soothe inflammation or amplify it. And the difference lies in 5 seemingly innocent mistakes that almost everyone makes without even noticing. Imagine this. During the night, your body slows down its repair processes, your joints rest in stillness, and the fluid that cushions them, synovial fluid, becomes more viscous. That's why mornings feel stiff. The body is like an engine that's been parked overnight in cold weather. It needs gentle warming before performance. But most people, in their rush to start the day, treat their body like a machine that can go from 0 to 60 instantly. They leap out of bed, drink what they shouldn't, eat what they shouldn't, and move in ways that quietly inflame tissue, tear microscopic fibers, and accelerate joint degeneration. Over time, these micro-injuries accumulate, until one day the pain that once disappeared after breakfast no longer fades. Let's pause here. If you've ever wondered why your knees crack louder in the morning, or why your fingers feel swollen when you wake up, this isn't random. Science shows that inflammation follows circadian rhythms. The same internal clock that tells your brain when to sleep and wake also regulates immune activity. During sleep, the body releases inflammatory molecules like cytokines to repair damage. But if certain habits spike inflammation right after waking, you interrupt that process. It's like pouring salt on a healing wound. The repair never completes. The inflammation lingers, the stiffness grows. Now think of how you start your morning. Maybe you wake up, check your phone, stand up quickly, skip water, pour coffee, sit down again, and rush breakfast. It seems harmless. But hidden in those ordinary choices are biochemical triggers that decide how your joints will feel, not just for the morning, but for the entire day. Each habit, movement, hydration, temperature, and even emotion, can either calm or provoke inflammation. This is why 2 people the same age can wake up in the same house, under the same roof, and live completely different mornings. One in ease, the other in pain. The first morning mistake isn't what you eat, it's how you move. The moment you swing your legs out of bed and stand abruptly, your joints experience a sudden shift in pressure. After hours of immobility, the muscles around them aren't ready to stabilize movement. The synovial fluid hasn't yet circulated enough to lubricate cartilage surfaces. That's why many older adults feel that sharp stab in the knees or hips as they stand. Over years, these abrupt transitions wear away the protective cartilage faster, leading to osteoarthritis progression. Scientists call this the cold start effect. It's not about temperature, it's about readiness. The body simply needs time to wake up, to rehydrate tissue, to signal muscle fibers to contract smoothly. The right move isn't to push through the pain, but to let the body thaw gradually. Gentle stretching before getting out of bed can literally change the trajectory of your joint health. But even after you move correctly, the second mistake creeps in quietly: dehydration. Most people go to bed around 10 p.m. and wake up around 6 or 7 a.m. That's 8 to 9 hours without water. During sleep, your body loses fluid through breathing and perspiration. By morning, your blood is thicker, and the fluid that cushions your joints is slightly reduced. Now imagine drinking coffee first thing. Caffeine acts as a mild diuretic, pulling more water from the body. The result is simple but dangerous. Your joints begin the day slightly dehydrated, meaning less lubrication, more friction, and more pain. Studies show that even mild dehydration can increase inflammatory markers like CRP, C-reactive protein. This isn't just a matter of thirst, it's about joint survival. Before coffee, before breakfast, before anything else, the body needs hydration. So a tall glass of room temperature water signals your kidneys, liver, and joints to restart the fluid cycle of the day. The third mistake is invisible but powerful, ignoring morning inflammation signals. When you wake up with stiffness, it's not just because you slept wrong. It's the body's way of whispering that inflammation was active overnight. Most people ignore it, moving on with their routine. But that stiffness is a diagnostic clue, a message that your immune system was fighting microdamage in your joints while you slept. Ignoring it means ignoring an opportunity to reduce inflammation early. A short morning walk, even 10 minutes, can activate circulation, move synovial fluid, and help flush inflammatory byproducts. Think of it like clearing smoke from a room. You restore oxygen and movement to spaces that were inflamed. And then comes breakfast, the fourth and often most damaging mistake. Many people wake up hungry and reach for comfort: toast, cereal, fruit juice, maybe even a muffin. But these foods, high in refined carbohydrates and sugars, can spike insulin levels, which directly stimulates inflammatory pathways in the joints. Researchers have found that glucose spikes can increase the production of advanced glycation end products, AGEs, compounds that stiffen collagen and reduce joint flexibility. You might feel that stiffness within minutes, not realizing it's linked to what's on your plate. A better breakfast, one that protects joints, centers around anti-inflammatory choices, foods rich in omega-3s, antioxidants, and stable proteins like eggs, chia seeds, and berries. But we'll return to that later. For now, it's enough to understand this. Your breakfast either soothes your joints or attacks them. Finally, there's a fifth mistake few ever suspect: morning stress. Yes, emotional stress. The mind and joints are more connected than most realize. When you start your morning rushing, worrying, or scrolling through distressing news, your body releases cortisol and adrenaline. In short bursts, these hormones are harmless. But daily surges, especially in the morning when inflammation is already high, create a vicious cycle. Cortisol temporarily suppresses inflammation, but once it drops later in the day, the body rebounds with even more inflammatory activity. This roller coaster keeps your joints inflamed, tired, and sensitive. Over time, this chronic pattern changes how your immune system behaves, making it react more aggressively even to minor irritation. You feel it as pain, but the root is biochemical chaos triggered by morning stress. Every one of these mistakes seems small in isolation, but together, they form a pattern that defines how gracefully or painfully you age. You wake up, move too fast, skip water, eat sugar, worry early. The result is predictable: joints that feel older than you are, pain that outpaces your years. But there's good news. Awareness is the first medicine. Understanding that the body's first hour sets the tone for the next 23 changes everything. It means your pain is not random. It's negotiable. It means your choices matter. Now let's visualize what actually happens inside your body during these morning moments. Picture your knee joint as two smooth surfaces separated by a thin layer of fluid. Overnight, that fluid thickens. The cells that produce it, synoviocytes, slow their activity. The cartilage loses some elasticity from being immobile. When you stand abruptly, pressure increases on the articular surface by up to 400%. Microscopic cracks can form, collagen fibers can stretch, and the surrounding tendons react defensively by tightening. That's the stiffness you feel. Add dehydration, and the joint capsule tightens further. Add sugar from breakfast, and the surrounding tissue swells with inflammatory molecules. Add stress, and blood flow is redirected away from the synovium toward the muscles for fight or flight. All these layers together explain why joint pain often peaks mid-morning, not immediately after waking. But here's something fascinating. Research from the University of Copenhagen found that cartilage cells respond to mechanical loading based on circadian rhythm. That means the timing of when you move, especially in the morning, affects how your joints respond to pressure. If you move gently and hydrate early, cartilage cells produce more lubricin, a protein that protects surfaces from friction. If you rush or skip hydration, they produce less. Your morning behavior literally programs how your joints function for the day. It's not random. It's chemical programming shaped by habit. There's another layer: temperature. Many people shower in very hot water first thing. It feels relaxing, but it also dilates blood vessels rapidly, increasing inflammation temporarily. Others shower in cold water immediately, which shocks the system before the body is ready. Neither extreme helps. Warmth is beneficial, but only after gradual movement and hydration. It's not about what temperature you choose. It's about timing. You must give your body permission to transition gently from night to day. It's also important to understand how the aging body changes the equation. In your 20s, your joints produce enough hyaluronic acid and collagen to recover from these small morning mistakes. But after 50, production drops sharply. Collagen synthesis slows by about 1% each year. By 50, your joints are producing roughly half of what they did at 30. That means every harsh movement, every dehydrated morning, every inflammatory breakfast has double the impact it once did. What was once a small ache becomes a lasting stiffness. What was once fatigue becomes chronic inflammation. That's why awareness now is so critical, because prevention works best before pain becomes permanent. If this sounds overwhelming, it shouldn't. The goal isn't perfection, it's consistency. The human body is resilient, forgiving, and eager to heal when given the chance. Even if you've spent years rushing through mornings, the moment you begin treating that first hour with care, you change your trajectory. The stiffness eases, the energy returns, the body begins to trust you again. And that's the real secret to joint health, not supplements or expensive treatments, but respect for the quiet wisdom of your body. Morning should be a ceremony of renewal, not a ritual of inflammation. It's when your body reintroduces itself to motion, hydration, warmth, and peace. When done right, it's also when healing begins. In the next block, we'll uncover how each of these 5 mistakes works at a deeper physiological level, how dehydration affects cartilage biochemistry, how stress hormones disrupt joint repair, and what small realistic changes can turn your morning from painful to powerful. But for now, remember this: the pain you feel is not an enemy. It's a teacher, asking you to listen before it becomes louder. There's a quiet irony in how the body works. The very habits that feel harmless, the way you stretch, the sip of coffee that brings you comfort, the simple rush to get things done, often carry consequences that unfold so slowly, so silently, that by the time you notice, the damage is already layered deep within your joints. When we talk about joint pain in people over 50, we often picture worn cartilage, bone spurs, or the term arthritis tossed around like an inevitability. But beneath that label lies something far more precise: inflammation that was allowed to accumulate because the body's natural rhythm was repeatedly ignored. And morning is when that rhythm is most vulnerable. When you wake up, your body is in a biochemical transition. Cortisol, the hormone that rises just before dawn, is supposed to prepare you for movement and alertness. But if your morning habits misalign with this hormonal surge, if you add caffeine before hydration, if you rush movement before oxygenation, you amplify stress instead of balance. And that, right there, is how risk begins. Not in a single morning, but in thousands of tiny biochemical missteps that add up over years. Each mistake may seem inconsequential today, but science shows that the earliest stages of joint degeneration are microscopic and symptomless. The first changes occur not in cartilage itself, but in the synovial membrane, the delicate inner lining that produces the fluid which keeps your joints gliding. Researchers from the University of Pittsburgh discovered that when synovial cells are repeatedly exposed to inflammatory molecules, especially IL-6 and TNF-alpha, they start producing less lubricin, the glycoprotein that reduces friction between bones. Once that happens, cartilage cells begin to lose elasticity. You don't feel it yet, but the seed of stiffness is planted. And this process is accelerated by morning mistakes, because mornings are when your joints are most dehydrated and least oxygenated. Add stress hormones, caffeine or sugar, and you trigger an inflammatory cascade right when your body is most defenseless. Let's look closer at the first mistake, the way you move after waking. Movement, in theory, should be good for the joints. But like all medicine, timing and dosage determine whether it heals or harms. In the first 10 minutes after waking, the temperature in the joint capsule is lower, the synovial fluid is thicker, and muscle fibers surrounding the joint have reduced elasticity. Jumping out of bed or bending suddenly can cause micro-tears in the connective tissues that stabilize the joint. Tiny injuries you might not even feel at first. Over time, They become the entry points for inflammation. When these microtears heal, the body lays down scar tissue, fibrous, less flexible, less efficient. That's why years later, your movement feels restricted. It's not just aging, it's architecture. The collagen you built in haste is rougher than the one you were born with. Even something as simple as walking down the stairs first thing in the morning carries risk. The force transmitted through the knee joint while descending steps can reach up to 3 times your body weight. If your quadriceps and hamstrings aren't yet fully activated, the knee absorbs that impact alone. Scientists call this a moment imbalance. The muscles fail to share the load evenly. Over decades, it's these imbalances that erode cartilage and deepen pain. So when people say, "I just have bad knees," it's rarely genetics, it's rhythm. It's the story of mornings rushed and bodies ignored. Now consider hydration. During sleep, your body operates at reduced circulation. Blood viscosity thickens by as much as 10%. When you wake dehydrated, the plasma volume remains low, and your body prioritizes essential organs over peripheral tissues. That means less fluid delivery to your joints, less nutrient transport, and slower removal of metabolic waste. The cartilage, which has no direct blood supply, relies on diffusion through synovial fluid to receive nutrients like glucosamine and chondroitin. If that fluid is thickened from dehydration, diffusion slows. Think of it as trying to pour honey through a straw instead of water. The nutrients can't reach the cells efficiently. The result? Cellular stress. Chondrocytes, the cells that maintain cartilage, begin to experience oxidative imbalance. They release reactive oxygen species, and those molecules in turn damage the very collagen that holds your joints together. What makes this risk even greater is how subtle it feels. You might not notice dehydration until late morning, perhaps a mild headache or fatigue, but your joints already do. They respond by producing pro-inflammatory cytokines to compensate for the stress. Over time, this low-grade inflammation becomes chronic. It doesn't scream, it whispers. Until one day, you realize that getting out of bed feels heavier than it used to. And yet hydration is not only about water, it's about timing and balance. If you drink water but immediately consume caffeine, you neutralize the benefit. Caffeine temporarily constricts blood vessels and increases urine output, further depleting sodium and potassium, minerals essential for joint lubrication. This creates what some doctors call a false hydration state. You've drunk water, but it doesn't stay where you need it most. It passes through too quickly, leaving the joints still undernourished. That's why the timing of hydration matters as much as the quantity. Then comes breakfast, the comforting ritual that too often hides one of the most destructive forces against joint longevity: inflammation triggered by insulin spikes. When you eat a refined carbohydrate or sugar-rich breakfast, say white toast with jam, orange juice, or a sweetened cereal, you raise your blood sugar rapidly. The pancreas releases insulin to clear it. But in people over 50, cells are often less sensitive to insulin. The body compensates by producing more. This excess insulin triggers the liver to release inflammatory molecules, which in turn activate enzymes like matrix metalloproteinases, MMPs. These enzymes are responsible for breaking down damaged collagen, but when overactive, they begin to degrade healthy cartilage as well. It's like cleaning too aggressively. You start stripping the surface you were trying to preserve. One of the earliest signs of this process is morning swelling. If your fingers feel tighter after breakfast, or if removing a ring feels harder, that's a direct signal of systemic inflammation. The joint capsule retains fluid as immune cells flood the area. Many people mistake this for water retention, but it's actually inflammation retention. The body is trying to defend itself from what it perceives as a biochemical threat. Then there's the emotional component, morning stress. You may not think of worry as a physical act, but the body does. The hypothalamus, which governs the stress response, communicates directly with the adrenal glands to release cortisol and adrenaline. Short-term, these hormones increase alertness, but they also divert blood flow away from the gut and the joints, toward the muscles and heart. The result is reduced nutrient delivery to connective tissue and increased tension in tendons and ligaments. Chronic morning stress, checking emails before sunrise, thinking about financial worries, replaying arguments, locks your nervous system into a low-level fight-or-flight state. In that state, the body doesn't prioritize healing, it prioritizes survival. This is why emotional stress and physical pain are so tightly linked. In fact, studies from Stanford University found that people with chronic joint pain often display heightened amygdala activity, the part of the brain that processes fear and stress. The brain literally learns to associate movement with threat. Over time, this creates a feedback loop. Pain causes stress, stress worsens inflammation, and inflammation deepens pain. Mornings become the hardest part of the day, not just physically, but mentally. And yet, there's another risk few people talk about: cold environments. Many people over 50 wake up early in homes that are slightly chilled. They step onto cold floors, sit in drafty kitchens, or take cold showers immediately after rising. The shock constricts blood vessels, reducing synovial flow and muscle flexibility. It's why joints often feel worse in winter. The risk isn't just discomfort, it's biochemical. Low temperature slows enzymatic reactions that produce lubricin and collagen. That means the first movements you make occur in a metabolic slowdown, not readiness. Gradual warmth, through stretching, warm beverages, or gentle light exposure, signals the body to awaken its repair mechanisms instead of shocking them. Risk also accumulates through repetition. Think about it. A single morning with poor habits won't destroy your joints, but 5 decades of them, thousands of mornings will. Every rushed movement, every dehydrated start, every inflammatory breakfast adds micro-damage. It's like erosion, so slow you never see it happening, yet one day the surface has changed. That's why doctors now talk about lifestyle arthritis, not caused by trauma, not purely by age, but by habitual disregard for the body's morning rhythm. But what if I told you the greatest risk isn't even physical? It's resignation. The moment you believe joint pain is inevitable, you stop intervening. You start tolerating stiffness, accepting fatigue, surrendering to just getting older. That belief is as damaging as the mistakes themselves, because the mind has a direct line to inflammation control. The placebo effect, widely studied in arthritis, isn't fantasy, it's biochemistry. Positive expectation lowers inflammatory cytokines through neural pathways involving the prefrontal cortex and vagus nerve. When you expect healing, your nervous system behaves differently. When you expect decline, it obeys that too. Every risk, therefore, is twofold, biological and psychological. The body amplifies what the mind accepts. And mornings, when your brain chemistry resets from sleep to wakefulness, are the most powerful moment to shape that dialogue. That's when your first thoughts, movements, and breaths tell your body what kind of day it will have. Will it be a day of inflammation or of healing? The decision begins before breakfast. The more science uncovers about joint health, the more it reveals how interconnected everything is. Your joints don't exist in isolation. They're part of an ecosystem involving your gut, your liver, your nervous system, even your emotions. For instance, when you eat sugary or processed foods in the morning, your gut microbiota shifts toward bacteria that produce endotoxins. Those endotoxins leak through the gut lining and travel through the bloodstream to the joints, where they trigger immune cells. This process is called metabolic endotoxemia. It's one of the leading causes of low-grade joint inflammation in aging adults, and it often starts with breakfast choices. There's also the matter of circadian timing of medications. Many people over 50 take anti-inflammatory drugs or supplements in the morning, assuming it's the best time. But research shows that cartilage metabolism follows a 24-hour rhythm, repair peaks during the night, and inflammatory signaling peaks in the early morning. Taking medication at the wrong time can blunt the body's natural rhythm. Even painkillers can interfere with collagen synthesis if mistimed. That's why understanding the body's schedule matters. Morning isn't just a time on the clock. It's a biological phase. And how you treat it decides whether you accelerate aging or preserve function. And perhaps the most underestimated risk of all is inactivity after waking. The average person over 50 spends the first hour of their day sitting, eating, reading, scrolling. The lack of movement after hours of sleep compounds stiffness. Synovial fluid depends on compression and release cycles to circulate. Without motion, it stagnates. That's why short, gentle movement, ankle rolls, shoulder rotations, slow breathing stretches can make an enormous difference. It's not about exercise. It's about reawakening the fluid of life that nourishes every joint. The picture becomes clear when you look at the morning not as a routine, but as a ritual. Every habit you repeat imprints either inflammation or healing into your joints. Move too fast, and you injure. Drink too little, and you dehydrate. Eat too sweet, and you inflame. Worry too early, and you tighten. The body is listening every second. The risk isn't in any single action. It's in the accumulation of ignorance. The reward, on the other hand, is awareness, and awareness transforms everything. Because once you understand that your morning is not neutral, that it's either helping or harming you, you gain power. You begin to see the connection between the stiffness in your knees and the water you didn't drink, between your aching fingers and the sugar you added to your coffee, between your fatigue and the tension you carried before sunrise. It's a web, and once you see it, you can begin to untangle it. The truth is, aging doesn't have to mean aching, but it demands respect. The risks we've explored aren't meant to scare, they're meant to wake you, to remind you that your body, even after 50, remains profoundly responsive. It still listens, it still heals, and every morning offers you the chance to guide it. Pain, when it comes from the joints, has a language of its own. It's a deep, steady voice that hums beneath the surface, not sharp like a wound, but persistent like memory. Most people over 50 learn to live with it. They call it morning stiffness. They say it's normal, a simple fact of aging. But if we could peer inside the body during those first hours after waking, what we'd see would tell a different story, one not of age, but of imbalance. The impact of those 5 morning mistakes runs far deeper than soreness or stiffness. It reaches into the very architecture of your body, into your cartilage, your circulation, your hormones, your emotions. It's not just about pain, it's about how your body interprets life itself. Let's start with the first act of every morning, movement. When you stand abruptly after a night of stillness, your joints experience what researchers call a mechanical shock. Imagine your knees like 2 glass plates separated by a thin film of oil. Overnight, that oil thickens, its molecules slow down, its viscosity rises. The moment you stand, gravity pushes one plate against the other, and if that film hasn't yet loosened, friction builds. Microscopic wear begins. Over time, that wear leads to roughness, tiny pits on the cartilage surface that trap inflammatory molecules. Once those molecules settle in, they activate immune cells within the joint capsule. The synovial membrane begins to thicken in response, releasing enzymes meant to repair but which, when overstimulated, degrade. You don't feel this process immediately. The pain receptors in cartilage are few, they whisper, not shout. But the swelling you feel in your fingers, the heaviness in your knees, that's your body's way of translating invisible damage into sensation. It's saying, I'm trying to heal, but you're not giving me time. This is why those who leap from bed to activity often feel rusty throughout the day. Their bodies are literally catching up with the damage done before breakfast. Now, picture the opposite, waking slowly, flexing your ankles, drawing your knees to your chest before rising. That gentle movement acts like stirring warm oil. It redistributes the synovial fluid evenly across joint surfaces. The cartilage hydrates, collagen fibers stretch rather than tear, and within minutes, the mechanical load of standing becomes safe again. It's such a small act, and yet it completely changes the internal story of your joints. Then comes hydration, or the lack of it. Imagine the cartilage inside your knees or shoulders as a sponge. During sleep, that sponge compresses slightly, fluid seeps out, and nutrients are partially depleted. When you hydrate in the morning, you refill that sponge. But when you skip water, or worse, start with caffeine, you begin the day with a dry sponge grinding against bone. That dryness isn't visible on the outside, but it changes everything inside. Dehydrated cartilage cells release stress signals, chemical cries for help known as DAMPs, damage-associated molecular patterns. These molecules trigger inflammation in the surrounding tissue, summoning immune cells like macrophages and neutrophils. They arrive not to destroy but to repair. Yet the repair comes with swelling, heat, and pain. You might think the water you skipped only affects your thirst, but it determines whether your body wakes in healing or in crisis. Consider, too, the blood. When dehydrated, the blood thickens. It flows sluggishly through capillaries, delivering less oxygen to tissues. Joints, already poor in blood supply, suffer first. Without oxygen, cartilage cells shift from aerobic metabolism to anaerobic, a less efficient form of energy production that produces lactic acid. That acid irritates surrounding tissue, further sensitizing nerves. What you interpret as morning stiffness is, in part, a biochemical chain reaction from lack of hydration. Your body, literally, is trying to move while starved of the very element it needs to flow. Now add the third element, breakfast. The wrong breakfast does not just affect blood sugar, it directly shapes your inflammation profile for the entire day. After eating refined carbohydrates or sugar, your blood sugar rises sharply. In response, insulin floods your bloodstream to lower it. But insulin is not a quiet hormone. It's a messenger that talks to nearly every system in your body. When it spikes repeatedly, it activates a transcription factor called NF-κB, one of the central regulators of inflammation. Once triggered, NF-κB turns on genes that tell your immune cells to produce cytokines. Those cytokines don't stay in your blood. They migrate into tissues, especially into joints where circulation is slower and immune surveillance is high. The result is subtle but powerful. Your breakfast becomes your inflammation. That's why people often feel worse after eating certain foods in the morning. Their hands swell, their knees ache, their fingers feel stiff when gripping the steering wheel. It's not coincidence, it's chemistry. The sugar you eat becomes inflammation within an hour, and if that sugar is combined with dehydration, the effect doubles, because dehydration increases cortisol sensitivity. Cortisol, while meant to reduce inflammation, can backfire when elevated chronically. It suppresses repair cells, weakens collagen crosslinks, and makes tissues less resilient. This interplay between sugar, cortisol, and joint tissue creates what researchers call an inflammatory microenvironment. So it's like a storm that brews below your awareness, small at first, then more persistent. You might not even feel pain yet, but the foundation for arthritis is quietly being built, layer by layer. Now let's bring stress into the picture, the invisible companion of every modern morning. When you begin your day with stress, whether from rushing, overthinking, or checking your phone, you trigger a cascade that begins in your brain and ends in your joints. The hypothalamus releases CRH, corticotropin-releasing hormone, which signals the pituitary gland to release ACTH, which in turn tells your adrenal glands to secrete cortisol and adrenaline. These hormones are meant for emergencies, to help you fight or flee. But in daily life, they become misused. A false alarm ringing every morning. Cortisol in controlled amounts suppresses inflammation, but when released in excess, especially in dehydrated, undernourished tissue, it desensitizes the body's receptors. The result is paradoxical, more inflammation. Adrenaline, meanwhile, constricts blood vessels in the periphery to direct blood toward the core. That means less circulation in your joints, which further slows nutrient delivery and fluid exchange. And the brain, seeing this cascade, interprets it as pain, reinforcing the cycle of stress and discomfort. This is the hidden impact most people miss. The body does not separate mind and matter. A stressful thought can change your chemistry as surely as sugar can. Every rush of cortisol alters the texture of your synovial fluid. Every burst of adrenaline tightens the muscles that support your joints. That's why people who live in chronic tension often feel physically older than they are. Their bodies are constantly in defensive mode. Let's step back and visualize what a typical mistaken morning looks like from inside the body. The alarm rings, adrenaline spikes, blood pressure rises. You stand abruptly. Microtears form in the stiff tendons near your knees. You skip water, so synovial fluid stays thick and slow. You pour coffee, which dehydrates you further. You eat toast and juice, causing an insulin surge. NF-κB ignites, cytokines release, inflammation spreads. Cortisol rises to meet the stress of rushing. Muscles tighten, posture stiffens. By the time you reach your car or kitchen table, your body is already inflamed, before the day has even begun. This is not hypothetical, it's measurable. Researchers at Harvard Medical School found that markers of inflammation like IL-6 and CRP spike within 90 minutes of waking in people who start their day under stress or with poor hydration. In contrast, those who hydrate and move gently show lower levels of these markers and better joint mobility throughout the day. In other words, the first 90 minutes decide your pain for the next 12 hours. The impact extends beyond the joints. Chronic morning inflammation affects the endothelium, the inner lining of your blood vessels. Inflammation makes these vessels less flexible, raising blood pressure and reducing oxygen flow. That means your muscles fatigue faster, your stamina drops, your recovery slows. It's a domino effect. One small habit triggers a cascade across the entire body. What begins as joint pain ends as systemic aging. The emotional cost follows closely. Living with chronic morning pain rewires your perception of aging. It creates a quiet dread of mornings, a subtle belief that each new day brings more loss than renewal. That belief alone feeds the cycle of pain. Neuroscientists call this pain anticipation. The brain, expecting discomfort, heightens sensitivity to it. Pain becomes amplified not because of more damage, but because of more attention. This is why those who wake with dread often hurt more. And those who wake with calm optimism often hurt less, even with the same physical condition. The mind's lens magnifies or softens every sensation. Yet there's another layer, nutrition's long-term impact on joint tissue. High-sugar breakfasts create what's known as glycation. Sugars bind to collagen fibers, forming advanced glycation end products, AGEs. These molecules stiffen connective tissue, making it less elastic and more brittle. Over time, joints lose their ability to absorb shock. The cartilage becomes less springy, more prone to cracking. Once cracks form, the body attempts to repair them with calcified tissue, small bone spurs that further restrict motion. This entire chain can begin decades before pain becomes severe, fueled quietly by morning habits that seem harmless. The digestive system plays a role too. When you start your day with processed or sugary foods, the balance of your gut microbiome shifts. Certain bacteria thrive on sugar and produce compounds that leak into the bloodstream through the intestinal lining, a phenomenon called leaky gut. These compounds, endotoxins, activate immune cells systemically. And where do these immune cells often settle? In the joints, where circulation is slow and immune regulation is delicate. Scientists now call this gut-joint axis. It explains why dietary inflammation manifests as joint pain and why the first meal of the day carries disproportionate influence. But there's more. Repeated morning inflammation teaches your immune system bad habits. Immune cells become overreactive, responding even to minor stimuli as threats. This state, known as trained immunity, means that over time your body overproduces inflammatory molecules at the slightest provocation, weather changes, minor stress, even mild exercise. You become hypersensitive to life itself. What began as a few bad mornings becomes a body perpetually on alert. Now consider the emotional feedback loop. Chronic inflammation doesn't just cause pain, it influences neurotransmitters. Elevated cytokines reduce serotonin and dopamine levels, chemicals tied to mood and motivation. That's why people with chronic joint pain often feel fatigued, discouraged, or anxious. The biology of inflammation becomes the psychology of hopelessness. It's not all in your head. It's in your blood, your nerves, your hormones. This is the true impact of those 5 morning mistakes. They do not merely hurt your joints, they change your state of being. They shape how you move, how you think, how you feel about aging itself. They decide whether each sunrise feels like an invitation or a burden. But inside that reality lies the seed of transformation. Because what damages can also be reversed. The same biochemical pathways that ignite inflammation can be calmed. The same immune cells that destroy can heal. The same mornings that once hurt can become medicine. The body is not your enemy, it's your ally, waiting for new instructions. And those instructions begin where all healing begins, awareness. The impact of your morning habits is profound, but so is your capacity to change them. Your body's memory is long but not unforgiving. Each small adjustment, hydrating before coffee, moving before standing, eating before stress, sends a message to your cells. We are safe now. You can heal. The cartilage listens. The immune cells listen. Even the pain receptors begin to quiet. It's remarkable, really, how quickly the body can shift. Within weeks of restoring hydration, studies show that cartilage water content improves measurably on MRI scans. Within days of reducing sugar, inflammatory markers decline. Within minutes of deep breathing, cortisol levels stabilize. Every positive change reverses some fragment of the damage done. Aging does not have to mean decline, it can mean refinement, awareness, alignment. The impact, therefore, is not just about what went wrong, it's about what can go right. You are not at the mercy of pain. You are the author of it, and the healer too. The same mornings that once brought stiffness can, with intention, bring strength. The same rituals that once fueled inflammation can fuel resilience. The same silence that once felt heavy can feel like peace. Because the body, even after decades of mistakes, still remembers how to heal if you let it. Healing begins not with medicine but with awareness, the quiet decision to stop rushing your body through its own signals. For years, you may have woken up believing pain was simply the cost of age, that joints stiffen like old hinges, and that nothing could be done except endure. But the truth is more hopeful. Your joints are alive. They are not static structures doomed to decay. They are dynamic tissues that respond to care, hydration, and rhythm. The same way the body can be trained into inflammation, it can be retrained into calm. The power lies not in complex treatments, but in consistency, in small, deliberate rituals that teach your body safety again. The first step toward relief begins before your feet even touch the floor. The moment you wake, your body transitions from rest to readiness. Your muscles are still cool, your joints still thick with synovial fluid, your circulation still slow. If you leap straight into movement, you risk friction, but if you pause, breathe deeply, and begin with small, gentle motions, you signal your nervous system to shift from stiffness to flow. Before sitting up, stretch your arms above your head, circle your wrists, move your ankles slowly in a clockwise motion, then the other way. Draw your knees toward your chest if you can, waking your hips and lower back. These simple movements are not exercise. They are an invitation to the body to awaken gracefully. They circulate joint fluid, rehydrate cartilage, and activate proprioceptors, tiny sensors that tell your brain where your body is in space. This gentle dialogue between brain and joint reduces stiffness before you even stand. Once you sit up, pause again. Feel your breathing. Take slow inhales through the nose and exhale softly through the mouth. This isn't a ritual of calm alone. It's biochemical regulation. Deep breathing increases parasympathetic activity, lowering cortisol levels and improving oxygen delivery to tissues. With more oxygen, synovial cells produce more lubricin and hyaluronic acid, key components for joint cushioning. In this state, your body's first movements become smooth, not jarring. Next comes hydration. Think of water not as a drink, but as the oil that keeps the entire machine of your body moving. The best way to hydrate your joints is to drink before you deplete. Within minutes of waking, before coffee, drink a full glass of room-temperature water, slowly, not rushed. Add a pinch of mineral salt or a squeeze of lemon to replenish electrolytes lost overnight. This combination doesn't just quench thirst, it restores balance. The sodium helps the water enter your cells rather than pass straight through you, and the mild acidity of lemon supports the liver in clearing metabolic waste accumulated during sleep. Together they reset your internal chemistry. Many people underestimate how directly water influences joint comfort. Within 20 minutes of proper hydration, blood viscosity begins to normalize, improving circulation to every tissue. The fluid in your joints becomes less viscous, allowing cartilage surfaces to glide more easily. It's like adding oil to a rusty hinge. You can feel the difference in movement within days of consistency. Studies from the University of Connecticut show that even mild dehydration can increase perceived joint pain by 20%. Rehydration, conversely, reduces that discomfort just as quickly. After hydration comes warmth, not extreme, but gentle. Our ancestors instinctively understood this. They would sit in the sun or by a fire before starting the day, allowing warmth to loosen the body. Modern life has replaced that ritual with cold tiles and rushing showers. But warmth still matters. A warm compress on stiff joints, a few minutes of stretching in a sunlit spot, or simply wrapping yourself in a robe while sipping water, all these acts tell your body it's safe to move. Muscles relax, circulation increases, synovial production rises. This warmth is a conversation with your immune system, saying, "We are not under threat, we are awakening." And then, breakfast, the most misunderstood medicine of the morning. For joint health, the goal isn't restriction, but restoration. What your body needs after a night of fasting is stability, steady blood sugar, gentle anti-inflammatory signals, and nutrients that rebuild collagen. The ideal first meal centers around whole unprocessed foods that balance energy with repair. Think of eggs, rich in protein and choline, which support tissue regeneration. Add a handful of berries for antioxidants that neutralize free radicals. Include healthy fats like avocado or flaxseed for omega-3s, which directly reduce joint inflammation. A sprinkle of turmeric or ginger can enhance this effect. Both have been shown in clinical studies to block inflammatory enzymes as effectively as some medications, but without side effects. Avoid refined carbohydrates in the morning, not because they are bad, but because they destabilize your hormonal rhythm. A sugary breakfast spikes insulin, which then crashes energy mid-morning and ignites inflammation. By choosing proteins and healthy fats instead, you create a slower energy release. Your body interprets this stability as safety, lowering cortisol levels and preserving collagen synthesis. Every morning you choose stability over spikes, you're literally teaching your body to produce stronger, more flexible connective tissue. For those who love coffee, relief doesn't require giving it up. It requires respecting the sequence. Drink water first, eat something nourishing second, then enjoy your coffee. This small adjustment prevents caffeine from spiking cortisol on an empty stomach and minimizes its dehydrating effect. In fact, when consumed mindfully, coffee's antioxidants can even aid joint health. It's not the drink itself that's the problem, it's when and how you drink it. Movement after breakfast should be gentle, rhythmic, and intentional. A 10-minute walk, some light stretching, or even slow dancing to music can make a profound difference. These movements pump synovial fluid through your joints, delivering nutrients and clearing waste. They also activate the lymphatic system, your body's drainage network, which removes inflammatory molecules. Think of this movement as rinsing your joints from the inside out. You're literally washing away stiffness through motion. But relief isn't just physical, it's emotional. The way you speak to yourself in the morning matters as much as what you eat or drink. If you begin your day with thoughts of dread or defeat, your nervous system enters defense mode, muscles tighten, breathing shallows, and cortisol rises. But if you begin with gratitude, even a simple acknowledgement of one thing you're thankful for, your parasympathetic system activates. Blood flow improves, tension softens, inflammation lowers. Studies in psychoneuroimmunology show that positive emotional states directly reduce cytokine production, the very molecules that inflame joints. So when you choose calm over chaos, you're not being naive, you're practicing biochemistry. The next layer of relief is rhythm. Your joints, like your heart and brain, follow circadian patterns. They thrive on consistency. Waking, hydrating, eating, and moving around the same times each morning trains your body to anticipate balance. This predictability lowers stress hormones, improves digestion, and optimizes cellular repair. Inconsistent routines, on the other hand, confuse your internal clock and keep inflammation high. Relief, therefore, isn't just about what you do. It's about when and how regularly you do it. Supplements can help, but only when built on a foundation of routine. Omega-3 fatty acids, curcumin, vitamin D, magnesium and collagen peptides are all shown to support joint health. Yet without hydration, movement, and balanced nutrition, their effect is partial. The real medicine is synergy. When you nourish, hydrate, and move in alignment, Your body amplifies the effect of every nutrient you give it. Sleep plays a role too. Most people overlook that true relief from morning pain begins the night before. The quality of your sleep determines the inflammation you wake with. A dark, cool room, free of screens, helps your body release melatonin, a hormone that not only induces sleep, but also reduces inflammation. If you wake repeatedly or sleep poorly, your body misses its nightly repair window. Prioritizing sleep hygiene, no caffeine after 2 p.m. Dim light in the evening, calming rituals before bed can transform how you feel in the morning. Then there's posture. How you sleep affects how you wake. A pillow that misaligns your neck or hips can strain joints before the day even begins. Investing in supportive bedding is not vanity, it's therapy. A side-sleeping position with a pillow between the knees can keep your spine aligned and reduce hip pressure. Over time, this small adjustment can mean the difference between waking stiff and waking free. Relief also involves re-educating your relationship with movement. Many people with joint pain fear activity, believing rest will protect them. But immobility is inflammation's best friend. The less you move, the more your synovial fluid stagnates, the weaker your supporting muscles become, and the more stress falls on your joints. The key is gentle, regular motion, low-impact exercises like walking, swimming, or yoga. Movement signals your body to maintain cartilage health, strengthen surrounding tissues, and regulate immune response. Every step becomes a message to your cells. We are alive, we are adaptable, we are healing. It's remarkable how quickly these changes add up. Within a week of morning stretching and hydration, stiffness begins to fade. Within a month of balanced breakfasts, swelling reduces. Within 3 months of consistent, gentle exercise, mobility increases measurably. Science calls this functional improvement, but those who experience it simply call it relief. And it's real, not a placebo, not luck, but the body remembering what balance feels like. Beyond physical actions, there is the deeper layer, belief. Relief is impossible without the conviction that healing is still available to you. The body follows the mind's lead. When you decide to stop labeling pain as permanent and start viewing it as communication, everything changes. Pain becomes information, not identity. It tells you where attention is needed, not where hope is lost. This shift from fear to curiosity activates neural pathways associated with resilience. Studies show that patients who believe improvement is possible show measurable decreases in inflammation markers, even when their treatments remain the same. The mind, it turns out, is the most powerful anti-inflammatory of all. Relief is not about eliminating pain completely. It's about restoring harmony so pain no longer controls your day. It's about transforming mornings from a battlefield into a sanctuary. It's about standing up without bracing for discomfort, walking without hesitation, moving through the world with trust again. Each choice, a sip of water, a slow breath, a kind thought, is a vote for healing. Over time, those votes accumulate into a life where vitality is not a memory but a daily reality. And perhaps the most beautiful truth is this: your body never stops wanting to heal. No matter how long you've lived with stiffness, no matter how many mornings have begun with pain, the capacity for renewal remains. The same biological intelligence that built your body decades ago still resides within you. It only needs cooperation, not perfection. Relief doesn't come from doing everything right. It comes from doing a few things with care every day until they become your new rhythm. When you treat your mornings as medicine, your entire day transforms. Pain no longer defines you, it reminds you. Movement becomes gratitude, hydration becomes ritual, breakfast becomes nourishment, and life once again feels possible. Relief isn't just the absence of pain, it's the return of trust in your own body. There's a moment, often unnoticed, when relief becomes transformation. It's subtle. The first morning you realize you've stood up without wincing, or that your hands no longer feel swollen around your coffee cup. Maybe it happens when you walk down the stairs and feel fluidity instead of resistance, or when you turn your head and the stiffness is simply gone. These moments mark the crossing between living in reaction to pain and living in partnership with your body. And that is what empowerment truly means, not control, not perfection, but alignment. The morning, once the hardest part of your day, becomes your foundation for strength, clarity, and grace. By now you understand the power that resides in the first hour of the day. You've seen how small mistakes, rushing movement, skipping hydration, eating sugar, carrying stress, can ignite inflammation. You've seen how equally small corrections, stretching, water, warmth, calm, can reverse it. But empowerment goes beyond prevention. It's about reclaiming agency over your own biology, realizing that your body is not a mystery working against you, but a mirror reflecting how you treat it. You are not powerless against pain. You are not at the mercy of age. The truth is, your body listens carefully to every choice you make. Each morning, it waits for instruction. If you feed it chaos, it answers with inflammation. If you feed it rhythm, it answers with stability. And this dialogue, repeated day after day, is what shapes your aging. Not the number of years behind you, but the quality of mornings ahead. Imagine, for a moment, what happens when you start each day in harmony with yourself. You wake not with dread, but with quiet gratitude. Before rising, you stretch softly, feeling your muscles awaken under your skin. You drink water and your body responds like dry earth meeting rain. You breathe slowly, inviting calm into your nervous system. You eat with intention, giving your joints fuel rather than friction. You move, not because you must, but because motion feels like freedom again. This is not fantasy. It is physiology working in your favor. Within weeks of aligning your mornings to your body's rhythm, measurable changes occur. Inflammatory markers like C-reactive protein begin to drop. Circulation improves. Synovial fluid thickens with healthy viscosity. Collagen fibers repair faster. Even the brain begins to shift. Pain perception lessens as serotonin and dopamine rebalance. What you once called aging starts to feel more like reawakening. Your body, after years of being ignored, begins to trust you again. Empowerment comes from this trust. It's built, moment by moment, through choices that seem small but carry enormous weight. A stretch is not just movement, it's dialogue. Hydration is not just water, it's nourishment. Stillness is not laziness, it's nervous system repair. When you start treating each act of care as communication, your relationship with pain changes completely. You no longer see it as punishment, but as feedback. The stiffness that once frustrated you becomes a signal, a message saying, "I need gentleness today." And when you respond to that signal with respect instead of irritation, your body softens. Healing accelerates. This is the paradox of empowerment. It begins with surrender, the willingness to listen to your body's limits instead of fighting them, to understand that slowing down isn't weakness, it's strategy. Because the goal isn't to live without pain, it's to live beyond its control, to move with awareness rather than fear, to choose rituals that make health inevitable rather than accidental. Every empowered morning becomes a declaration. I am not aging passively. I am aging deliberately. The difference between those two paths is everything. Passive aging allows inflammation to lead. Deliberate aging leads inflammation. It's the quiet revolution of self-care, not indulgent, but intelligent. It's choosing hydration before caffeine, movement before rush, calm before chaos. Each morning becomes a vote for vitality. And over time, those votes rewrite the story of your body. Think of the generations before you, people who accepted pain as destiny because no one told them otherwise. They believed stiffness, fatigue, and fragility were the price of time. But you live in an era where science, awareness, and compassion intersect. You now know that the body is plastic. It can change, adapt, and heal even in later decades of life. Studies show that cartilage can regenerate modestly under the right conditions, that chronic inflammation can be reduced, that mitochondrial energy, the spark of every cell, can be reignited with proper rhythm. You are living proof that healing doesn't end at 50. It begins with intention. Empowerment also means understanding the emotional layer of health. Your thoughts, your beliefs, and your morning mindset directly influence your biology. Neuroscientists have confirmed that optimism is not just a feeling, it's a biochemical environment. Positive expectation increases dopamine, lowers stress hormones, and improves immune regulation. When you begin your day expecting comfort instead of pain, your body prepares for comfort. The nervous system releases tension, muscles loosen, blood flow improves. You are not thinking yourself well in the abstract. You are literally signaling your cells to behave differently. This is why ritual matters. Empowerment thrives in routine. A body that knows what to expect feels safe, and a safe body heals faster. Start with a simple morning sequence you can keep. Stretch, hydrate, breathe, nourish, move. Do it every day, even when you don't feel like it. Especially when you don't feel like it. Consistency turns intention into physiology. The more often you repeat healing patterns, the less room pain has to anchor itself. And yet, empowerment is not about perfection. It's about progress. There will be days when you wake stiff, or mornings when you forget water, or moments when stress finds you before peace does. That's okay. Healing is not a straight line. It's a rhythm. The key is not to judge those moments, but to return. Every return strengthens the habit. Every gentle correction teaches your body resilience. Over time, the missteps matter less and the balance becomes natural. There's something profoundly human about learning to care for yourself again. Somewhere along the way, society began to equate aging with decline, wisdom with weakness. But empowerment redefines that narrative. It says aging is not the fading of strength, it's the refinement of it. It's knowing your body so intimately that you can feel imbalance before it becomes pain. It's understanding that power doesn't always mean doing more. Sometimes it means doing less, but with greater awareness. Your mornings can become sacred again, not because they're free of pain, but because they remind you of what's possible. The act of standing up becomes gratitude. The glass of water becomes renewal. The stretch becomes self-respect. The meal becomes medicine. When you live this way, you don't just add years to your life, you add life to your years. Empowerment is also sharing this knowledge. When you model calm, consistent care, others notice. Your partner sees you stretch instead of groan. Your children or grandchildren watch you move with grace instead of complaint. You become proof that aging can be vibrant, that health can be reclaimed. In this way, empowerment spreads quietly, generation to generation, not through words, but through example. And that may be the most powerful legacy you can leave, showing others that vitality doesn't fade, it evolves. That you can be over 50 and still wake with energy, still feel light in your steps, still experience mornings as beginnings rather than burdens. In time, your mornings will no longer be a battle with your joints. They'll be a conversation with your vitality. You'll learn to read your body like a language. A little stiffness in the knee means more hydration. A twinge in the hand means a gentler pace today. Instead of reacting with frustration, you'll respond with care. And that is the essence of empowerment. Responding, not reacting. Living from awareness, not autopilot. The beauty of this journey is that it never truly ends. Health is not a finish line but a rhythm, one that changes with you. Some mornings will feel effortless. Others will challenge your patience. But each one offers a choice, to fight your body or to listen to it. And the more you listen, the more it listens back. Pain diminishes, mobility returns, confidence grows. The body and mind, once divided by years of neglect, reunite. So as the sun rises tomorrow, take a moment, before the noise of the day begins, before thoughts of duty or distraction crowd in, pause. Breathe, feel your pulse. Drink your water slowly with intention. Move gently, like you're waking something ancient and sacred, because you are. You're waking the intelligence of your own body, the same intelligence that knows how to heal a wound, mend a bone, or calm a storm of inflammation. It's been waiting for you all along. Remember, every morning is a negotiation between decay and renewal. The choice is yours. You can feed inflammation or feed vitality. You can live by reaction or by rhythm. You can believe pain defines you, or you can prove that healing does. And if you ever doubt your progress, look not at how far you still have to go, but how much softer your mornings have become. Listen to the quiet between the aches, the peace that wasn't there before. Feel the warmth in your movement, the steadiness in your breath. That's not coincidence. That's empowerment, embodied. Because you didn't just reduce pain. You rewrote the story your body tells itself every dawn. You turned mornings from a reminder of age into a promise of renewal. And in doing so, You rediscovered what true health feels like, not the absence of discomfort, but the presence of vitality. The truth is, you are not getting older, you are getting clearer. Your body is wiser now. It asks for care, not punishment, rhythm, not rush. And as you honor that wisdom, you step into a new kind of strength. One that doesn't fade with time, but deepens with it. This is the secret most never learn. When you begin each day with awareness, gentleness, and gratitude, you don't just heal your joints, you heal your relationship with life itself. And that, more than anything else, is the kind of strength that never disappears.